Hi everybody, Jeff Yastine here. Welcome to another edition of Wealth Press TV. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe to us and follow us on our various social media platforms. My guest this week is Lance Ippolito, and we're talking electric vehicle stocks. Lance, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. It's always good talking to you. Ready to zoom in the EV space.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the program. So we want to talk electric vehicles here, and I guess I'll just start things off by asking you what you think of this sector right now.
A lot of especially newer investors out there or novice, they have that FOMO, that fear of missing out. And I get it. That's natural when it comes to trading and investing. The emotions are going to play a role. And you have a stock like NIO, we'll use for example, that has went from $2.11 back in March of this year to $57.20, right? These are huge gains. And when stocks go up, or especially a lot of these EV names have gone up, a lot of people have chased. And they're starting to pull back. Nothing, it's not like a crypto phase or a cannabis phase or some, bubble where they're coming crashing down. But they're starting to fall back into prior price action, some support like NIO now at 42.5 from 57.20. And, there's also, besides just running out buying, the next hot electric vehicle maker that's coming out, there's also ways to play the EV space without actually buying a car maker or a car manufacturer out there. And there's more and more names popping up in energy and on the auto parts side that will benefit from the rise of electric vehicles for years to come.
Lance, you're bringing up a great point because electric vehicles, when we're new to investing and speculating, quite often we kind of see things through this sort of narrow lens that we can only make money in just a certain handful of stocks. When you think about it, it's really an ecosystem of companies, and there's a whole range of companies out there that are supplying the inputs into manufacturing an electric vehicle that these EV companies then take all those and put the actual vehicle together to sell and to make money. So there's different ways to profit from this trend. So we'll circle back to that, but let me ask you sort of the elephant in the room question here, which is what do you think of some of these specific names in the EV sector, the headline manufacturers, if you will, like NIO and all the rest?
When we look at EV stocks, and we'll throw Tesla out of the equation just because it's a $636 stock, and that one's kind of in its own league. So we'll call that tier one of the EV space. It's a household name. It's been around. Heck, now it's a space play for as much growth as it has. So tier two EV stocks that I have on my list are names like NIO, ticker symbol LI, Li Auto, XPEV, XPEV, ticker symbol. They make kind of these like Ferrari type cars, real cool sports cars, and Li Auto's in the SUV space. So I would consider those tier two, and then tier three are more of your high flyer, what I call kind of more of the dice rolling names like Electromechanica, ticker symbol Solo, Candy, ticker symbol KNDI, and we can even throw like FSR in there. I think it's Fisker. These are more, I would say, speculative names that are going to fluctuate a lot, and a lot of those tier three names, they're down about 50% from their recent high. When you're looking, to pull back, and we'll go to like names like XPEV, NIO, heck, we'll throw Tesla in there and Li Auto. You could really look at something like a 50-day or 100-day moving average for a pullback and see if the stocks get bought at support and key technical levels. Use that instead of, oh, wow, NIO came out with record deliveries and is up 10% pre-market. Let me buy it. that's usually the time you want to, either write calls against your stock position. If you're an options trader doing some kind of cover call strategy, or if you're an options trader, maybe, trim some profits, or if you're long the stock, maybe trim and trill. You know what I mean? When you get into this space, you have to realize volatility is high. And that's going to come with the territory as they're newer names. A lot of these names that just went public over the past couple of years, and trading volume has been picking up in them. These names like XPEV or even ticker symbol LI, it's not uncommon to see 5, 7, 8, 10% intraday moves. Yeah. And if you were looking at a stock like, let's say, a Facebook or an Apple or a Chevron or a Goldman Sachs out there, that's very rare, right? You see a 10% move, and you're like, man, that's a correction, mini correction. Yeah. And you can have that intraday. So you really, need to, if you're looking for an entry, scale in and not, go all in, or not put all your eggs in one basket in these names, because they're volatile. We just saw over the past couple of weeks, some offerings came out where these names are looking to raise more capital at lower prices. And even if you're an options trader, really having proper risk management, because you can have a quick drop in these stocks, which you're not going to have necessarily with a larger cap, more low beta name, and that can really hurt your account and your portfolio right there. So yes, you can make good money on the upside, and when they're running hot and you catch that trend, man, is it fun to ride? Yes. But at the same time, when they do come down and when there is some volatility in them, just use proper risk management for sure.
So Lance, when we sort of back up here and talk about the component makers, the folks who make the parts and everything else that goes into an electric vehicle, where would you be looking at? What kind of names interest you from that perspective?
When we think of the world of we'll just say automobiles, right? It's not just, hey, here's a Lamborghini, it's a cool car. What makes up that Lamborghini? And if Lamborghini production picks up, what other companies are going to benefit? What supplies the parts to make that Lamborghini? So, we've seen big companies like GM come out, Ford come out, parent company of Mercedes-Benz. I think they did 85 billion investment towards the electric vehicle market from 2021 to 2025, with 30 EV vehicles coming to market. That emission-free transportation is something going forward is going to be huge. And there's companies out there that aren't as popular, or they're not getting that media attention, that are, really, they're strong and they're moving correlated with EV stocks, but sometimes they're not as volatile and they don't have as many eyes on them. So you can have a little bit of an advantage rather than, like, let's say trying to think what NIO or Tesla is going to do next month with vehicle sales and such like that. So I like a lot of names in the sector. I like, and even older companies like BWA, Borg Warner, that have been around from 1928. They're based out of Michigan. They're even moving into this new space of electric vehicles and parts and supplying all that. So I have a few names on my list. If you want to go over them, we can. But sure, I think investors and traders should really open their eyes to some of these names, rather than just having that tunnel vision trying to pick the next 10 bagger in NIO or so. Let's start with Bloom Energy, ticker symbol BE. And the first thing I remember when I first found this stock, because of institutional order flow, I thought, oh man, another freaking energy name. I thought it was like a Halliburton or a ConocoPhillips or a Marathon Petroleum. I was like, ugh, why are they buying calls on this garbage? And I remember it was like, I don't know, $8-9 a share back then. Now it's $27 a share, up actually almost 11% today. But Bloom Energy, fuel cell based, energy company out there. I think they're actually out of California. I think when I was looking at some of the reports out of them, I like that name. I like Ballard Powered Systems, ticker symbol BLDP. They're real big, and not only the EV car space, but bus, trucks, train, marine equipment. For like river ferries and stuff like that. People don't think about boats. These boats, they went from 2 strokes, putting oil in them and everything, and smoking up and polluting the clean water here, especially in Florida, to now you won't find a boat out there that's not a 4-stroke. And now the next thing for marine motors is electric. You're out on the boat, it's hot. If you could get power there instead of spending $400 just to take the boat out on the weekend with the kids, that's huge. I like Plug Power, and this one's a little bit more popular, a big move. Fuel cell company, great management. There's some really good interviews with the CEO, with Kramer. 15% of liquid hydrogen goes to Plug out there. Just a little note I have there. Then there's, of course, like fuel cell, ticker symbol FCEL. That one's a little bit more popular, has gotten a little bit more mainstream attention. And then also, too, there's a couple names I like. I mentioned earlier BorgWarner. That's a name that makes, not only transmissions, motors, battery packs, thermal management, but also DAN, ticker symbol DAN. I think it's Dana Corp. I call it Dan because the ticker symbol, like my buddy Dan. But this name actually popped up on my radar just a few weeks ago and has been working out really nice. They're an Ohio-based company. They make axle, drive shafts, transmission parts. They have a bipolar plate technology. They've actually won some awards in the fuel cell industry. So a lot of these names too are, they're not like $300 stocks. Like Dan is just shy of $20. Plug just shy of $30. BE is, I think, what is it? $27 or so. Ballard Powered Systems right there, $19 a share. So they still have, if you want to look at it from a dollar amount perspective, they're not $300 stocks out there. They're relatively low price stocks and that aren't up, 400 or 500% this year. And they're really not as volatile. If you look at the implied volatility on them, they're more slow and steady, but they also give you exposure to the fast tracking EV world.
Lance, I'm curious, since we're talking about this, what do you think about the folks who make or mine lithium? Because obviously, if we're going to have more and more electric vehicles out there on the roads in coming years, lithium for the lithium-ion batteries is going to be a thing. I wrote a piece a while back, earlier this year, much earlier, looking at Albemarle, which is a lithium stock, and there's other ones like Livent that are out there as well. And most of those have done quite well as we move towards the second half of the year.
Yeah, one thing you brought up was the lithium plays, and there's also one, I think it's Livent, yes. Livent, LTHM. I've actually traded that and done quite well. That's about a 16, back when I was selling it was 15, $16.50 share price. Again, a big move in them. So I don't know if you buy them up here because they have made an incredible move, but the lithium plays are really, really picking up. Even if you go buy a weed whacker or lawnmower at Home Depot, guess what? Lithium power. Yes. And I think that's super cool. And again, it's not smoking up, while you're cutting the grass or so. So lithium power plays, I like them. Have they moved a little bit too much for me right here? Kind of, but they're still on my radar.
I read somewhere recently that an electric vehicle has about 7 times the amount of copper in it that a fossil fuel vehicle does. And you can understand why that is. I mean, just for the motors themselves in an electric vehicle, when you look inside them, there appear to be miles and miles of copper wiring on the inside. And in the past, 9 months or so from the bottom of the pandemic panic. I think the price of copper got down to just below $2 a pound, and I think it's somewhere up around 4.5 or 5.5, something like that. But basically, it's doubled over the last 9 months, and it's still below where it was in the mid 2000s when copper was a very hot commodity because of the real estate bubble at the time. So anyway, I'm wondering if copper is another area that you might look at. Maybe not talk about stocks right now, but is that someplace that people ought to research perhaps?
It's a very good point, and especially like for example, when I was growing up in the business, it was copper. When you have housing demand pick up, these houses, they need copper. China industrial production, copper. And I was always looked at as a sign of economic growth and recovery, the demand for copper. But I think a lot of people don't realize copper and EV vehicles. You're also looking at silver in there, nickel in there. You're looking at these precious metals that go into the electric vehicles, and there's demand for them. And if you look at some copper names, like, for example, I was talking about in the Market Color today about Tech Resources, a copper name, incredible moves. The name has tripled off the March lows, and it's only $18.50 stock. It's kind of slow and steady, but you still get exposure. And then probably the most popular copper name, Freeport Mac. I mean, I dare you to find a better chart out there than Tech or Freeport Mac, or you can even look at Southern Copper Corporation, SCCO.
Yes.
And these are just kind of your large cap copper plays. I know there's, probably a lot smaller names out there. But the move in copper is just mind blowing. And if you're kind of bearish in the overall stock market, or you think, maybe we're in a bubble and some of these EV stocks, the demand for copper is really confirming that there is demand for EV stocks, housing, and the economy is, expanding, so to speak, without getting too much into the whole stock market, overvalued, undervalued, stuff like that.
Lance, if I can take a step back, one thing I had read recently, an interesting bit of news came from a legacy automaker, Toyota. You know them, we all know them, they're based in Japan. And they came out with a fascinating press release that talked about a technological development that they had created in a new type of battery called a solid state battery. And the key point here is that solid state batteries recharge to full power in about 10 minutes. And this is in a prototype stage, as opposed to, you can imagine when they come out on a production level, there'll probably be even faster recharge times there. But my point here is that I'm wondering if this may present an entry point for the legacy automakers to make a bigger splash in electric vehicles as well.
You mentioned, like GM, this, beautiful move in the stock off the whole exposure to electric vehicles. Toyota had a nice pop. This name usually does not move too much. It's very, very small ATR. It had a huge move off that news. I think it went from about 140 to just shy of 150, and then up to about 154 and change or so. I do think, in the back of one's mind, you have to take notice, because a name like Toyota, they have the capital, they have the history, they have the manpower to produce and have a customer base and a history. They have everything in line where, if they do come up with something that is, we'll call it game changing or a competitor to Tesla, or if not better, they should have that traction, no pun intended with the tires, but to get that out there and to get that mainstream audience. I'm looking at a daily chart of it now. I just pulled up, and I mean, the stock's already a huge move off the lows of March from 108 to now 152 and change. So I do think that's a solid play, but it's just not as we'll call it a sexy play compared to some of the newer growth stocks out there.
No,
And
There's
that
no question about that.
that just really goes to the whole market and the whole hunt for growth that we're seeing now. It's really just so crazy how much Wall Street wants growth and whatever new name that they won't really even look at a name like Toyota. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what I found interesting about the Toyota announcement on solid state batteries and the idea of them doing their own electric vehicle is that they have been notoriously anti-EV for a long time. They manufacture hybrid vehicles and they do it very well. They've been pushing fuel cell vehicles as an alternative, but from what I understand from reading the material from the company over past years, they've not thought that battery technology could progress to the point where you could have an EV, a battery-only electric vehicle, and that it would work to the standards that they would want in terms of mileage and quick recharge times and that sort of thing. And it appears that this new development with the solid-state battery that they've announced in recent days may be something of a game changer for them as well.
Well, if 5 years from now, if I can't go buy a Toyota Camry with gas, and they don't get into the space, then what's going to happen, right?
Yes.
They'll be looked at as a dinosaur.
Lance, we have a final few minutes here. I'm wondering if you have a thought, an opinion here on whether the speculative fervor that we've seen in the electric vehicle sector can continue well into 2021, because I know that's one thing we all have to keep in mind when we're buying these very hot sectors, is that you don't want to be that last person who buys what you thought was a hot stock at the moment when the rest of the trading community decides that that group of stocks or that stock itself is yesterday's news.
I think we really haven't seen much of a market correction since the March lows from the pandemic. And yes, we've seen a lot of these names pull back in the EV space. More of those tier 2 names, the Li Auto, XPEV, and we'll even call NIO in there. Your kind of high flyers, your tier 3 names, the ones that are like $10 or so. I'm not even looking at them. I think they're done, so to speak, unless they come out with some cool ATV and I really want one and it's not $20,000 brand new. Okay, then maybe. But I think you had a lot of players come out in 2020 that said we're EV just to get their share price higher. And as bad as that sounds, you had companies do that and raise a lot of money that way. But I want to see on your solid names with growth that have a history. That's why I like NIO. It has a history. It has fantastic growth. 111% year over year growth. I mean, that's huge. Record deliveries every month and stuff. I want to see when these names pull back, not just from a sector level, but from an overall market pullback. If we get the NASDAQ or the S&P falling 10, 15, 20% off the highs, whatever catalyst causes that, I want to see if money goes right back into these stocks and if they get defended, right? Because if you look at the strong names, whether it be internet software companies, whether it be solar companies, that when we've had a sell-off or there's been negative news, they've came right back for them. Yes. And I want to see if the option flows back, if they aggressively sell puts or buy call options. I want to see if these names get defended at the 100 or 200-day moving average. If they do, then I think that's a really good indication that investors are going to keep pouring money into them. And it's not some kind of, 2020 was the year at the EV stocks, that they're here to stay and you do have growth in them for the future. And I think that's been kind of a testimony to Tesla. right? If you look at Tesla over the past few years, every time they've had short-term news, whether it be Elon Musk smoking a joint on Joe Rogan, or him doing crazy Twitter posts, or Tesla cars catching on fire, or whatever it may be, short sellers coming after them, what has happened in Tesla stock? It's bounced right back, right? And if these other names can have that kind of reaction, I think that's very, very bullish. And especially too with the auto part names and the fuel cell based names out there, those really makers of the EV space, if they come buying them back for more, I think that's really bullish. And I'll tell you, Bloom Energy, BE, I've seen that stock rally 10% in a day and come down 10% in a day, and every time that stock has a pullback, you get put selling, you get aggressive call buying, and they buy time, they buy in the money calls. They're not playing, and stuff like that just really shows me how strong a stock is. So I like it, and I'm like you. I think the future is electric vehicles and not only vehicles. I got to keep telling myself that, but I think it's marine. I think it's ATVs, dirt bikes, all your toys out there. I think it's boat motors. I think it's machinery, farm equipment. I think all that is going to convert into the electric market. So you have a lot of positives and a lot of positive catalysts in the future, not just it's a cool hip thing that I'm going to get on board of for the next month or so.
So Lance, boy, it's been great having you on. You've given us a lot of good stocks to look at, and a lot of good perspectives here for us to continue the research on our own. So Lance, thank you. That's
why I like having these conversations, because if we can open up someone's mind and expand their watch list, I think that's valuable. Right before it's too late, before they hear about it on the big mainstream media. Yes. Because by that time it's usually the party's already over. You're late to the party, and also too getting the viewer out there who maybe they're lucky enough to have some money to put into the market, or they got some cash on the sidelines, or maybe they've been doing their research on these names out there, to really go in, develop a game plan, develop proper risk management where they can deploy and feel confident and comfortable with their decisions, whether it be trading, whether it be investing, and really giving them that kind of kickstart to dig deep in their own research and make their own investment decisions accordingly. So I think that's very valuable, and I'll tell this to the people out there. Look up the space, give yourself a game plan, an outlook of how long you want to be in, and get familiar with the stocks. Like before I ever really traded NEO, I would watch that stock, see how it traded for weeks. I had it on my watch list, and then when I got comfortable and I started to understand, hey, this is how the stock normally moves, pick up some patterns. Then when I got into trading and putting my capital to work in it, I felt comfortable. And that's something that you always want to do when you're trading and investing, is feel comfortable, feel confident, and not be scared. If you have research and you have you're familiar with the stocks, and you really have that confidence out there, I think you'll find it a lot more beneficial from a dollar perspective, but also you'll take really that emotion out of it, and you won't be too stressed out, which is always the key.
Lance, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It's always good talking to you, and check us both out, social media. Jeff's doing tons of videos, which is always good, sharing the knowledge, and happy holidays as well, everyone.
And a couple of final programming notes from me. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to us, follow us on social media, and also we'll be on hiatus for the next couple of weeks. You can look for the next new edition of Wealth Press TV on January 6th. That's Wednesday, January 6th. So until then, I'm Jeff Yastine wishing you a great holiday period.